is trying to show to the world that they have the capacity to bridge the differences between Taliban and Pakistan, which have emanated in recent past. If China feels that Taliban will crack down on TTP, it's not likely to happen because Taliban considers Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan as their ideological brethren, and they will always have safe haven in Afghanistan. These mining sites will be connected through a trade corridor, which might probably come via Pakistan or more likely from Central Asia, or may go thereafter to Iran. Gwadar is like a Gibraltar of Persian Gulf. Any country or any power, maritime power sitting there can easily interdict any shipping that is entering or leaving Persian Gulf. See, firstly, we should be very clear that China has been trying for a long time that CPEC becomes a viable proposition. It has not been able to do so till now.
Serious engagements between China and Pakistan after meetings with India, after interactions and engagements that we are looking forward to in Tianjin. We are looking at what China really wants to do, and that is to ensure that they consolidate their position when it comes to CPEC. There's a CPEC 2.0 now. To discuss this and more, I'm being joined by Alok Bansal. He's Executive Vice President, India Foundation. Thank you so much, Alok, for joining me here on the network. Significant development, a lot of engagements, but how do you look at the trilateral and then the bilateral?
See, firstly, we should be very clear that China has been trying for a long time that CPEC becomes a viable proposition. It has not been able to do so till now. Now, it's reaching out to Afghanistan really does not make much of a difference apart from just a show of position, because China already now at this moment has an access to Arabian Sea through Iran. In fact, already the trains from China have reached Iranian landmass through Central Asia. So it already has one prong of the so-called BRI, which is reaching the Arabian Sea. The second one under Pakistan has also happened, but considering the security situation, it has not really been feasible for China to move cargoes the way they would have liked. So what getting Afghanistan on board is concerned, basically China is trying to show to the world that they have the capacity to bridge the differences between Taliban and Pakistan, which have emanated in recent past. So they're hoping that this would bring about. I'm quite sanguine about it because, as I said, Taliban is an ideological entity. And Taliban has never ever made any compromises as far as their ideology is concerned. So if China feels that Taliban will crack down on TTP, it's not likely to happen because Taliban considers Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan as their ideological brethren, and they will always have safe haven in Afghanistan. And this single issue itself is sufficient for Afghanistan-Pakistan relations to be tense, at least in near future.
Okay, but we do know that there are traditional investments, there's the CPEC. Can you explain how CPEC 2.0 is going to be fundamentally different from traditional development projects? And in terms of what the strategic implications also therefore that we'd be seeing in the region?
See, as of now, the details are not out, but what I perceive is that in CPEC, the original CPEC, you had nodes where industries are being located, which will be primarily Chinese industries with local labor at lower levels. And these are going to be connected with corridors which are being connected, and this is what is happening. Many of the power plants, coal-fired power plants from China have been shifted to Pakistan, which are being established. Now, in case of Afghanistan, I think setting up of industry will be too far-fetched at this stage. So in this CPEC 2.0, what you are going to see is basically the mining points where there are large number of mines, minerals that China hopes to extract. So these corridors will connect these mining sites, iron ore or even lithium is supposed to be there. So I feel these mining sites will be connected through a trade corridor, which might probably come via Pakistan or more likely from Central Asia, or may go thereafter to Iran. So what is the fine print, we will get to know in due course. But I think the CPEC 2.0 is more basically a matter of perception as far as bringing Pakistan and Afghanistan together is concerned.
That's a very interesting perspective in terms of rare earth, in terms of minerals, in terms of resources. But given Pakistan's financial situation and the debt situation itself, Alok, would you, according to your assessment, would you consider this yet another move by Pakistan towards a debt trap? And can this really be sustainable?
See, as of now, Pakistan's foreign exchange reserves are reasonably okay. And as you know, just a few days back, Moody actually upgraded Pakistan's credit rating from CAA2 to CAA1. So to that extent, there is no immediate threat to Pakistan. Its foreign exchange reserves, though not very healthy, are still can sustain a period of time, and they are also, the remittances are on the upward trajectory. The remittances which Pakistan is getting last year was about $38 billion, and even in July, the month of July, which is the first month of their current financial year, it has shown an increase. So to my mind, immediate threat is not there. Of course, in this particular financial year, they have to pay back almost $26 billion. But they are hoping that most of it will be recycled. That is, most of that will be rolled over by various institutions, especially China, Saudi Arabia, and UAE. So I don't visualize too much of a threat at this point of time. But the fact is that the Chinese investments are increasing the debt burden of Pakistan. And eventually, it will be very, very difficult for Pakistan to service this debt, as many economists in Pakistan have already been voicing their concern about it. So that's an issue, but no immediate impact. And what happens is, considering the fragile political situation that exists in Pakistan, the political dispensations there are only concerned about immediate future. They are really not worried what happens after 1 year or what happens after 2 years.
Okay, again, a very interesting perspective. Also, somebody like you who watches Pakistan so closely and has been doing that for a while now. Gwadar is something that also we've spoken about it in the past as well. Given the situation in Balochistan, Gwadar as a port never really took off. But with this project, do you think logistically and strategically there could be potential there? And how much of a threat would that be to India's maritime security in the Indian Ocean?
See,
Or the
Gwadar,
Arabian Peninsula?
see, we need to understand that Gwadar is like a Gibraltar of Persian Gulf. Any country or any power, maritime power sitting there can easily interdict any shipping that is entering or leaving Persian Gulf. So as far as Persian Gulf is concerned, Gwadar makes it an attractive place to monitor anything which is entering or leaving, or even interdict if you want to. So the strategic location wise, Gwadar is one of the finest ports. In fact, as early as 50s, I think the ADBs had identified Gwadar as one of the best location for a transshipment port. And that's why Pakistan subsequently went for it. But economic viability has been a question mark. And that's been primarily because Gwadar has not been successfully connected with the Pakistani hinterland. As of now, it's connected only with the coastal highway. And it does not make economic sense to offload goods at Gwadar and take them by coastal highway almost close to Karachi and then take them up. So as long as Balochistan remains restive and there is no safety and security of goods and cargo that is moving through it, I don't visualize Gwadar being economically viable. And that is the situation as far as CPEC is concerned. And as long as Baloch continue to feel that CPEC is nothing but an instrument which Islamabad is using to colonize their land, I don't think so there's likely to be peace in this part of the world.
Okay, but we've seen the local resistance in Balochistan. It is, like you said, problematic, and it might not take off. But there is another factor that has now come into play, and that's Trump. President Trump and the Trump administration now designating some of the entities in Balochistan as foreign terrorist organizations is or could pose a problem to this resistance movement. Do you think, with the help of America, there could be some, maybe not completely doing away with the Baloch resistance movement, but some forward movement for Pakistan to work in this area, and it is win-win for China and, interestingly, for the United States of America, that is also looking at Balochistan?
See, as far as US designation of BLA as a terrorist organization is concerned, it does pose a threat because much of the funding for Baloch organizations come from Oman and UAE, which have a very, very powerful Baloch diaspora. And of course, Afghanistan had been one of the safe havens for Baloch nationalist forces. So to that extent, US influence on the countries of the Gulf is enormous. So maybe transferring of funds from Oman or from UAE will become difficult. As far as US is concerned, well, US under Trump is virtually impossible to predict. What President Trump is going to do tomorrow, I think no one can predict even today, including his Secretary of State. So as far as planning for Trump's America is concerned, it's virtually impossible. So how they are going to work out is difficult to say. But as of now, Pakistan and especially its military leadership is pandering to President Trump's ego, and that's actually helping it to take actions which benefit Pakistan at the cost of Baloch nationalists. However, it is my viewpoint that US and India have common value system. The common values of democracy and pluralism actually bind us. And the rise of Indian diaspora further strengthens Indo-US ties. So even if there is an aberration for a short term, eventually India and US ties are bound to improve. And we are bound to converge. And that convergence will come through, maybe a little later, but it will definitely come about because our values are similar, and Indian diaspora has become extremely influential in the Union.
Maybe 3.5 years from now, maybe 3.5 years, Alok, from now. But coming back to CPEC and CPEC 2.0, what can India really do, according to your assessment, in terms of countering this move of China, either militarily or particularly economically, or maybe just diplomatically?
See, firstly, I'll counter your point. 3.5 years is, I think, not true. I personally feel next year's midterm elections would bring Indo-US relations back on even keel. And you'll see this unilateral tariff war that's been going on will come to a grinding halt. As far as dealing with CPEC 2.0 or CPEC is concerned, I think the best way of dealing with it is to deal with China diplomatically. We need to understand that today India and China have a border dispute. There is no existential ideological threat that any country poaches to the other, unlike in 62, where we were representing two different ideologies. And in that sort of a situation, China's quest for an access to Arabian Sea can be countered by India's quest for Central Asia. We could possibly offer China a corridor from Karakoram to Kandla, which would actually help provide China a more secure access to Arabian Sea. And this route can be taken to Kyrgyzstan and help India get access to Eurasian heartland, which I think would be a mutually beneficial proposition as far as India and China is concerned. And I think China's quest to take its cargo through Pakistan and its troubled lands would probably come to a grinding halt once they have a better option through India.
Do you think they'll ever give up on Pakistan for even a trade route or or any such economic benefits from India? Is that even in the realm of possibility?
See, as far as China is concerned, they won't give up on Pakistan because China is also an Oriental country, and unlike Occidental societies, it does not make rapid flip-flops.
Yes.
But having said that, Chinese society is very, very mercantilist. They actually look, giving aid is not in their DNA. So whatever they're giving to Pakistan, even for CPEC, is at least 2% above the Shanghai Interbank rate, Shibor. So with that sort of a thing, the financial viability will always remain a very, very important factor. And if this sort of a proposition is offered to them, I'm sure at some stage China would jump at this sort of a prospect if we can give them an access from Karakoram Pass to Kandla. This would firstly stabilize the borders, because if Chinese goods are passing through this region would stabilize. This would also bring economic development to Ladakh and other areas. And I think it would also help us to get an access to Central Asia, which at this point of time has been extremely tenuous because of the continuing tensions between Iran and the Western world.
Technical question here, Alok. Do you think China will ever agree to any projects that is in disputed territories, whether it's Ladakh or Jammu and Kashmir?
See, let's be very clear. Karakoram Pass is not disputed. Both China and India agree that this is the border. And from
I mean going through any of these areas.
See, I don't think it's passing through any disputed territory. If you actually take a route from Karakoram Pass to Kandla, it doesn't pass through any territory which is disputed with China. Now, of course, if you want to say that whole Jammu Kashmir is disputed, that's a different issue. If China wants to take that sort of a side vis-a-vis Pakistan, then it's going to be
No, I'm talking about vis-a-vis Pakistan only. The fact that, they would not, or they have never done anything in Jammu and Kashmir because of sensitivities with Pakistan, although they continue to do business in POK.
See, I have no doubts that there'll be some sensitivities, but I'm sure this should be a lucrative offer. They may not immediately agree, but eventually they will agree. You don't say that it is, you talk about the border trade point of view. Let's talk of border trade through Ladakh. I think it's been stymied for a very long time. I understand right from 50s, they were reluctant to allow border trade through Demchok and all these areas. But I think a time has come when we should actually insist that we need to open these roadways. And I'm sure there are sections of society within China who would want it. And at this point of time, I think when both these major Asian powers are facing the brunt of Trump's tariff war, although China has still been not been exposed to that sort of an onslaught, but it's definitely a potential target. I think there may be a greater acceptance of this sort of a proposition.
Well, I hope policymakers in our country, New Delhi, are listening to what you have to say. Very interesting perspective. But before I let you go, my final question to you, Alok. CPEC 2.0, what is your assessment and and how do you see the development and the regional impact of this project?
See, I think it is more for effect rather than anything which will happen on ground, actually. It is just to give a psychological impact, yes, that China has successfully brought Pakistan and Afghanistan on one table at a time when there are serious differences between the two countries. Besides that, I don't visualize any immediate economic benefits to any of these three countries. Yes, in future it may happen if things change. But at the moment, I don't visualize any significant economic benefits to any of these three countries of this so-called CPEC 2.0.
Alok Bansal, thank you so much for joining us here on the network. That's Alok Bansal, Vice President, India Foundation.